off by saying, last night there was a disaster. Can you see the mantle? I'll show you the coffee table. We have to learn sometimes that it's best to just go with the flow. Let me just tell you, we are doing the holidays different this year, and truth be known, this is probably what our future holidays are going to look like. They're not going to be anything like we've had in the past. We've just had wonderful holidays. This Thanksgiving to Christmas time frame with our blended families has just worked out perfectly. And then it changed. And it's not been easy. And I know that many of you have gone through something similar to this yourselves. This is part of the, this is part of just learning to go with the flow. Go with the flow. Here's what happened about this leading up to it. Well, we're just going to go back and talk about some things that have happened decorating-wise. And I even have notes, and I know I'm going to forget something because it's just been sort of crazy. When we moved to this house, we moved without a Christmas tree. And last year, we talked about it, and we decided where we wanted the tree to be. And we agreed on it. We agreed that there was a perfect spot for this tree. When you come into our entryway, we have a really large entryway. It's open, but there's a wall that is sort of diagonal right here. And we had a little primitive chair sitting there. That's what we keep there year-round. But that's where we decided we wanted to put the tree. And Jim decided that he thought we needed to get like one of those slender pencil type trees so that it wouldn't jet out in the room where we would be hitting it. Duh. We wouldn't be hitting it. And I thought, well, you know what, that makes sense because I just love the big trees. And we have the tall ceilings. And so we looked and we looked and we looked, and we finally ordered a tree online. And I will tell you, it was pricey. We ordered the tree knowing that it would be probably the last tree we would buy. We were going to keep it for as long as we could. And it was pre-lit. And I knew, and we ordered it a month or so out from Christmas, so we had it. And it was in the box. When we took it out of the box and set it up, it just wasn't a pretty tree. And it was too late to return it. I fluffed and I decorated it, but I did not like it at all. It was like there was just something about it. It was like a column. It didn't have the tree shape at all. And I'm sure I'm inserting a picture here. So I knew from last Christmas that I was going to have to do something about that tree. I knew that I could never convince Jim that we should replace that tree, get rid of it, and get another one that was shaped better. I mean, this looked like a column. So this has sort of been in the back of my mind, and you will remember back in the summer, maybe you saw the video where I had been to Michael's. They had 80% off of their greenery, and I bought tons of greenery, a lot of this, at 80% off. I mean, it was nothing. It was so inexpensive with that discount. So I knew in the back of my mind I would probably use that in some way to make that tree look better shaped. We get the tree out this year and set it up. And So Jim had also ordered one of those big covers for your tree that you put around your tree and then zip it down, because we have just a perfect little spot in our garage where we could stand the tree standing up. I undecorated it, meaning I took all the ribbons and the ornaments off of it, but it had the light. Of course, the lights were permanent. We just wrapped that cover around it, zipped it, and put it over in that little spot. Between the two of us, it was no trouble at all to lift it, to get it to the garage. Finally, Thanksgiving weekend, I asked Jim if he would drag it out of the little corner where we had it out into the middle of the garage, and I wanted to look at it and I told him, I said, I want to work on it. I want to figure out how to make it look a little bit better before I decorate it. And when we took the cover off, one of the strands of lights was off, right in the middle. And that tree, when I looked at it, it was so holy. It had holes all in it. I stood out there and I searched and searched and searched for those plugs to connect that probably whole section of lights. And it was like probably 1.5 feet with no lights around the middle. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll just add, I'm not going to stress out about this. I'm just going to add another set of lights in that area. And I started fluffing that tree, trying to get it as full and as unholy as I could get it. And it just didn't do any good. Finally, I had Jim help me bring it in, and we brought it in and put it in place. And it was just horrible. It was ugly. It had holes all in it. I had put that set of lights in it to fill in that. It still needed more lights, so I wrapped another string of lights on it, and the lighting situation finally started to look a little bit better. I went and got my big box of florals that I'd bought at 80% off, and I started playing with it. And that just didn't do it. It didn't do it at all. And I was just, it was like the point here, the top of the tree, and it came down like this. It didn't flare out at all. It didn't have a tree shape. It was just like that, all the way down. And I had spent a lot of time trying to make that tree look better before I started to decorate it. I'm sitting here looking at it, and nothing was working. And I was out in the garage, and I opened a box, and some of you will remember, but when we were at that condo in Panama City Beach, we had that really long front porch with banisters across. And every year at Christmas, I decorated those. I had bought, they were inexpensive. I can't remember where I got them. I got them years ago. But just the garlands that you would put on your own banisters or on your mantle, just the long, perfectly plain green garland. And there in that box was all of those garlands. I think I have about 6 of them. Maybe there were that many 6-foot spaces, or 5 of them. I can't remember. So I had this brainstorm. And I thought to myself, okay, I have no use for these, so I'm going to sacrifice one of these and see if I can fill in that tree. And what I did was I got my wire cutters and I measured out, or just estimated, a section about, probably about 20 inches long, and I cut it. I folded it in half so that it was V-shaped, and I took that, brought it in, and I stuck it in between the branches at the bottom and adjusted it, and oh my goodness, it was like it just matched the tree enough. It filled it in, and I'm thinking, I'm onto something. And went out there and cut another piece and brought it in and bent it in half and stuck it in another area, and it looked good. I wound up doing the whole tree that way. Some of them went further in, some of them were out a little bit further. Obviously, the ones on the bottom of the tree were out a little bit further. I didn't want it too big because I still wanted us to be able to come through from the kitchen and the hallway into this room without hitting it. But all of a sudden, it started taking the shape of a tree, a slender tree, but a tree. Went and got my green florist wire and I started cutting and wiring. And I wired all of those. There is no telling how many of those I have in that tree, but you can't see them. You don't know that they're there. You don't see any holes in that tree. I had to wind up using another set of lights on the tree. But all of a sudden, it looks like a tree. And I love it. I love it. So, and it cost me nothing. I already had all those garlands. So when you're faced with something like that, just think about, okay, what can I do? So I decorated the tree and got it the way I wanted it. And I know when you see what I did with the top of that tree, you're going to ask where I got those because I've never seen anything like them. I just happened to be in Ross a week or so before Thanksgiving, and they had their Christmas decorations out. And would you believe those were 3 picks, and they only had 3 that were a couple of dollars a piece. And I just put them together and stuck them down in the top of that tree for my tree topper. And I love it. I made sure that I had some lights that would go up in them so that they would light up. And I just love that tree topper. And I really and truly, except for the little Christmas lights and a few deer, some red burgundy wine-colored velvet and satin ribbons, and some snowflakes and some glass balls, everything I already had except for the ribbon and except for the little 3 picks that went in the tree topper. I already had it. And so the tree cost me virtually nothing, just very inexpensive. And I'm just loving it. I'm loving it. May not be for everybody, but it was for me. And that inspired the mantle. Some of you have mentioned in the last video, the mantle behind me, that you liked it, and I appreciate that. But that's where I used all of that 80% greenery back there. And let me tell you, it was pretty. I'm going to show you. I'm glad I took video of it because last night Jim went to get something off of this bookshelf back here, and he hit the mantle, and most of it came toppling down. And some of it broke. One of my very favorite reindeer is missing 2 legs. Well, he has 2 fractures, and I'm gonna, I think, get some glue here and figure out what glue I need, and maybe do a little surgery on him to see if I can repair those legs. I think he's repairable. But right now he has 2 broken legs. And of course Jim was so apologetic, and I said, no, don't worry about it. It wasn't on purpose. You know, things happen. It's not the end of the world. What is that old saying? Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat it. So yesterday too, I got up and decided that I needed to do something. I had pretty much decided I wouldn't do anything else as far as decorating in the house. But I thought, you know, if we have a neighbor come over and unexpectedly, I just need to have some things out. So I decorated my coffee table a little bit, and I decorated the dining room a little bit, but that was it. But also, and I'm probably gonna redo this some way. I will. I'll get all this greenery that fell, I'll get that taken care of. I'll redo that because it was so pretty. I thought, pretty to me, and that's what matters. Pretty to Jim. We're the ones who matter. But let's talk for a minute about life changes. I did a video last year where I talked about that there's just a difference in being lonely and being alone, especially during the holidays. And it was easy for me to do that video because I have been where so many of you were then and still are. I was single for 35-ish years before I married Jim. Jennifer spent a lot of holidays with her dad, and I was alone. I had friends who had family that they spent the holidays with. But something has happened in my life that this year has become a reality that at first I was really bothered by. I was bothered. When I met Jim had 2 grown sons. One of them was married with children who were 11 and 13 years old. They were almost teenagers. One was. His other son was single, and Jennifer was single. And we were living on that mountain in Arkansas, which at Christmas time was beautiful. And it was just the perfect house to decorate, and I had so much fun with it. And so for the holidays, everyone lived close enough that they could drive there. One was like an hour and a half. Jennifer was an hour and a half from us. His one son with his family lived in Memphis, 4 hours away, and the other son lived different parts of the country because he worked for the government, but he could fly in. But it was just us. And it was easy. We moved to Florida, and it stayed the same. His son got married, and they had their first child. Then they had a second. So we now have a just turned 4 years old a couple of days ago, and a newly 6-year-old. Y'all have seen pictures of her. And now Jennifer got married, and we have, in 3 days, twin 21-month-olds. And we're not close. We're still those distances apart, but we have those little ones. And we sort of made do during the pandemic. It was just sort of understood that, we were in a pandemic. We weren't going to fly. We weren't going to get in the car and drive. It was just not the right thing to do health-wise for any of us. You just know it's going to be over, and we're going to all be able to gather together in one location. And even back before those young children, what we did is we had worked out with our children's in-laws so that we could all get together on the same holiday every year. In other words, we would all gather at our house, mine and Jim's, say for Thanksgiving one year, and then they would go to their in-laws' homes for Christmas. And then the next year, their in-laws would do Thanksgiving, and we would do Christmas. So we swapped it off, and it worked just great. And then came these children, 4 little ones. We're in the pandemic for the first 2. So it didn't, that was understood. But it occurred to me a year or so ago that if at all possible, children, I think, and this is me personally, and they agree, I've shared this with our kids, our children, all children, need traditions. Yes, they need us, they need family, but they need their own little traditions, especially for Christmas, if they celebrate Christmas, and ours do. So, what do we do? I just feel like it's so good if they can wake up in the morning on Christmas morning and Santa Claus has come. What wonderful memories. What wonderful memories. And we've toyed with the idea of doing Christmas before or after, and nothing really seems to work out. We will get together, but we've talked about it, and Jim and I especially, this is our new reality. I think, to go see one, then you're slighting the others. Oh, and now listen, what were in the early days, we had an 11 and a 13-year-old who have now graduated from college, and they live in 2 different parts of the country, and they work, and they don't have the time off or the freedoms that they had when they were still at home or still in college. So like many of you, we have children and grandchildren all over the country. So it's us. It's Jim and it's Biscuit and it's me for Christmas this year. And you know what? We're going to be just fine. I think next year we may plan a trip. We may plan a Christmas cruise. I don't know. Why not? But this year we're going to be here. We have our tree. We'll get up on Christmas morning and we'll exchange our gifts. Biscuit's going to get a new ball. He would rather play ball than anything in the world. I think Biscuit would rather play ball than eat. So he's getting a new ball, and he'll make us Christmas dinner, and we're going to be just fine. We're going to be fine. And we'll FaceTime with each family individually so that we can see them open their gifts. And we're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. And I think you'll be fine too. If you're not able to be with your family for whatever reason, and you're going to be alone, or maybe you have your little dog or your cat, you'll be fine. We'll all be fine. Find a good book, make some hot chocolate, just enjoy the holiday season. I noticed early on that I was really feeling stress, and I'm someone who has never felt stress, but I was feeling a lot of stress about what was going to happen this holiday season. We just didn't know. We planned different scenarios about how we could fly here and drive there and fly there and rent cars and try to see everybody, and then we realized we can't do this. We can't do it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine, and we are fine. And you just, as the old saying goes, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's not perfect for us, but we'll be fine. It's not what we would want for us and for our family, but we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Thank you so much for watching. You know how much I care about you guys. I hope you'll go out and be especially kind to yourself right now. Be especially kind to you, because then you can be kind to others. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.